ordinance has been proposed defining and limiting the conditions for open burning within the city limits of Bryant. Currently, we do not have an ordinance that regulates this in any way. Chief, I'm going to give you the one first, and then just, guys, let's just be very orderly about this tonight. This meeting is being recorded. Just raise your hands and we'll work around the room. Whoever has comments for this.
You say seated up here?
For the nights,
Okay.
It is.
So,
It's
whatever
already
take-
Thank you, Roy.
You think what you think?
Yeah, we want this on
I
record.
want to make sure.
So we hit the two red buttons on the top that say record.
Okay, yeah, they're both.
And 3, 2.
Testing.
Testing. I just want to say, thank you for the council for coming together and work on this. This is what I wanted from the beginning, is this to be your ordinance. You're going to be the one to pass it and have input in it. So I'm really glad we got to this point. So, Butch has been working with me on this. There's several that have been working with me on this. I haven't seen until a few minutes ago this latest version. I've read it. I'm all for that one. And Alderman Chandler just gave me another, hadn't had a chance to look at it yet. So, Alderman Higginbotham, you want to discuss yours and the input, where it came from?
Okay. I took our original one, which got published in the paper, and along with Chris and you and Mr. Odell and Gladden and Mr. Chandler, came up with a whole lot of suggestions with public input. First thing we did was take out the nuisance part. If we get in all the rest of this, it's pretty much going to eliminate a lot of that anyway, I feel like, and plus defining what a nuisance was and how we were going to monitor that was a little bit difficult, so we took it out. As far as residential burning in the yards, we've changed the wording a little bit to allow during the burning period of March 1st or April 30th to begin at least 1 hour before sunrise, and then 2 hours after sunset, and that's also for the period from October 15th through December 15th. We added that in because usually it's light anyway, and that's usually the calmest times of the day when the winds really just calm down and shuts down at the end of the day, particularly. I changed one item that said the above time spans may be expanded, shortened, or completely abolished. Well, with authorization of the Bryant Fire Chief, and then I added with approval of the City Council. Because while I know Chief Jordan wouldn't go around changing and just eliminating anything we put in there, we wanted to make sure that somebody that follows along, not that we want to get rid of you, but somewhere down the line, if somebody comes along, we don't want them just going in there and changing everything up without us passing it by us.
That's mine, you better look at this. He told me.
So Butch, we're saying that basically from March 1st through
April 30th.
April 30th, like, citizens can burn yard waste.
Right.
And then October 15th through
December 15th. Yes,
Any
sir.
other times they can't do that unless their property is more than that.
Yes, the next sentence after the city council, the burning of yard waste for properties of more than 2 acres will be exempt from the calendar burn time period.
Excuse me, would one of y'all in the audience go to the back and let Lauren Gladden in? I'm receiving text messages that he's trying to get back. Thank you.
We did that time period is basically when we need to burn between the yard waste and then the spring cleaning, fall, leaves falling. And then if we have a late season storm or something, we've got an article in here that allows the fire chief to issue a special time for us to allow to burn for those types of acts of nature. And we stuck that in.
Are we ready to discuss?
No, anytime you want to, you can start talking.
Why don't you,
Where did you put
why
that
don't you
in?
go over yours?
I'm looking at your two, and I'm kind of looking at the difference, and the difference I see is the time period, correct?
Well, the time period, I expanded the time
Yes,
period
sir.
by a
Yes, sir.
month.
Yes, sir.
On both ends.
Okay.
That's just my, that's personal.
Yes, sir. And I
We're
want
gonna-
input.
We're
from you
gonna
guys.
say November, what you got, November the
I think you've got
15th? Well, you know,
October, January.
yeah. Because let's take it, at Christmas time, a lot of people are off like the last half of December, and that may be when they do yard work or do their burning. I know that's when I do it a lot of times. That's when I do my last, and I don't do as much burning.
That's perfectly fine with us, because, and if that's okay with the other, that's arbitrary to us, that's the fire department, that's what the input I would like, and I'm glad you did that. We just wanted some input on that.
The thing I like about mine is, on the burning yard waste properties more than 2 acres. If you'll notice on mine, I made that item C.
Yours?
On the second page, and you can word that any way you want to, but I felt it important to put on there that although these parcels are exempt, they still must have to follow Article D, E, and F, which were the old C, D, and E. Okay, you still got to stay with the fire, you still got to have a charge hose, you know.
So it doesn't make them wholly exempt.
Oh, yeah, right, and
You
that's,
know,
I
they
think,
still have to follow.
It's in ours, it's on
it's just
B
a
in
little bit
ours.
different, but it's the same manner, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing I changed is on the first page, Article A, where it says, however, the above indicated time spans might be expanded or shortened. But I deleted that section. I'll tell you why. If I'm gonna be a stickler for what an ordinance says, he's the only guy that can do that. If the police chief has a reason to want to change the burn ordinance, a justifiable reason, he can't do it. If the mayor wants to change it, she can't do it. He can do it. And that's why I think it should, city council's gonna be in charge of that anyway. So I think it would be less confusing to just take that out.
Be better for me. It'd probably be better for me in the long run, too.
You see what I'm saying? That makes sense?
I'm fine with that.
So that removed, which sentence, Alderman Chandler, that was,
I struck where it said starting with however,
however, yes.
all the way down to, I left the last sentence, open burning of residential
Okay.
yard waste should not be allowed unless the following.
So that took out what you were wanting, Alderman Higginbotham, on the smoke-free days, is that what that would do?
No,
Is
the
that-
smoke-free days are still in there.
Is that correct?
Yeah, all that takes out is,
What, yeah,
it takes out
Arkansas.
It takes out
anything being
What-
expanded
what's a
short or
smoke-free
completely
day?
abolished.
what's a smoke-free day? You know, does that mean you can't light your cigarettes, or, you know?
No, it says open burning of residential yard waste.
You have a problem in saying smoke-free day without
I'll get you one too.
smoke-free day in the ordinance. It's got, you gotta have a definition.
Open burning of residential yard waste.
It's smoke-free day.
After these are the sentence after the burning of residential yard waste. I think we should follow.
So you need a comma, is that what you're saying?
No,
I'm just
You
saying.
run the sentence together?
I still think we need, I mean, you got
But,
that, you don't want,
but the thing is, okay, he can have a smoke-free day on what grounds?
That's what I would like to have input in and clarification in and guidance in.
There's
That
no
really puts-
grounds, there's no grounds here for him to say.
Puts me on the hot seat.
He can wake up in the morning and say,
I know, like,
the sun,
stop, I know where that came from. For instance, if there's a home football game
On
that
football
night.
game.
Correct.
Okay, if
A
there's a home
parade.
football game that
Parade.
night, or a parade, or
Christmas
something where we
parade.
have a lot of visitors in town, you might wanna say, not tonight, please, because if it's a low cloud cover,
Yeah.
then the whole stadium's just covered in snow.
Could we maybe,
I'm just saying, yeah.
figure out a way
I've got no
to,
problem with that.
as the body of the council to come together and designate those days beforehand? That way it's not on me to say, hey, won't you make a smoke-free day today? Why? You know, is it just for you? Is it what's going on? Well,
Well,
I agree, those events do need to have some kind of escape from it, but that may be something that we could get some guidance from
Or
the
you could even
council.
say smoke-free day for special events. You know, something like that, you know, when you say, okay, he can allow smoke-free days, he could wake up one morning and say, okay, this month's a smoke-free day.
He's coughing and going, I think they need to smoke free day.
And I'm not saying you would, I'm just saying,
Oh, he would. He told me he was gonna do it.
And as much guidance and clarification that can be in here when it's written, I'm all for that.
Because there's been times at football games late at night.
That's what I was, Friday night on football games, Fall Fest, Halloween,
Not limited.
Thanksgiving,
Maybe we can say
Christmas
that
break.
these days will be considered smoke-free days, but not limited to. And other days will be at the discretion of the fire chief. And list, kind of give the gist of the idea of what kind of days we're talking about, so that
Such
people will
as,
know the intent.
Major
We
sporting
got
events.
soccer games, they've got games on Tuesday night, they've got games on Thursday night, they've got games on Friday night. It's not just Friday night football.
Could I please solicit some input from you guys and ladies again on those times?
Well, you've got a limited burning time here, so you've got from, what is it, where are we at now?
Well,
March?
if we go to the extended one Alderman Chandler proposed, that would be March 1 to May 31st, basically March to
Okay, so you've
April.
got baseball is starting up there, you've got baseball games, and soccer games, and softball
And
games.
then, where we go,
whatever.
Several nights a week, not just
October
Friday night.
1 to January 1, so we have October, November, December,
Right.
those 3 months, so
So you got 1 month of football.
that helps there.
And we're
Okay.
talking mostly the proximity to the high school campus where all these events are being held, because that's where the parade is held, that's where,
Right, that puts us in the
Monster
saying this group
Madness,
can't and the
so-
rest of them can.
That's my hood.
Well, how many parcels around the school are over 2 acres?
You know, you won't probably have maybe a couple, 2 or 3 maybe.
Mr. Ross.
So the smoke is coming from the other side of town?
So in that target area,
No.
The smoke is coming from the neighbors right
Yeah.
now. On Fourth Street.
So if they have less than 2 acres, they can go anywhere, right?
No,
They
no, they
can't.
can't really.
they can from October, November, December.
Yes, yeah.
So you want to just say like home sporting events, public displays such as parades, that type of thing. I worked on the wording on that.
But work on it, because you're going to be careful, because
And I-
Well, you could say
Any input
smoke-free day,
on that?
well, smoke-free days for special events.
Define
However
special
you work.
We'll work on some back.
We'll do that up.
And you did,
special like
you just,
I've got a
which
question.
this is not the one you sent me.
Sir?
This is not the one you sent me today.
No. That's what I told you, it was the wrong one.
Yeah,
I did,
I had gone back in there.
printed it off and hit save and apparently it didn't save.
It's all
I'd
smoke
gone
and
back
mirrors,
in there
man. It's all
and-
smoke and mirrors.
This has been
I've gone back in and changed the definition of yard waste and added limbs, and I see you did too.
Mr. Miller.
I have a question for the legal department. If you say October the 1st and ending at 2 hours after sunset, January the 1st of each year,
They added that back in there. I'm not sure. I had it at
Does
sunset
that-
and at
That
could that be
sunrise.
interpreted by someone to wrap the whole year?
Gotta make it December 31st.
Come on in.
I'm just asking, because if someone pushes that, they could push that to mean, well, you just wrap the whole year by saying January 1st. I'm just asking.
I think Mr. Chandler said December 31st and
Yeah,
then
change it.
December 31st.
and then we'll add language in there of that.
I see what you're saying.
So we want to go
It
to
could be
May.
without any kind of fine, any kind of restriction.
That's still good time.
So the changes, the differences between the two, that was pretty much.
You want to go December 31st, and then what was the other one, May 30th? May 31st.
March 1 to May 31.
Ma'am?
I like the shorter dates myself, but that's just, I mean, plenty of time, and then if we have a disaster. If they know that they've got this amount of time, and we send it out in newsletters that they've got from March to the end of April,
Okay, let me give you an example. I play baseball, February, March, and April. My season's over in May. Every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in those months, I'm on Bryant baseball, so I'm gone. If anything gets burned, you're gonna have to come burn my yard if anything gets burned on it. So, I mean, there are people who, those 2 months may not fit, me being one of them.
And
I don't have
with
a
the
free
rain,
I don't have free weekends till May.
Well, the other thing, April's really long.
It's wet, you can't burn those, I mean, those 2 months are typically one or the other.
You're through by the major summertime if you go May 31st. That's when your last
You gotta stay off the drought seasons too, though. Whenever it's too hot, dry.
Even with the longer burn period proposed for Alden Chiller, that's 6 months out of the year that we're saying you can't, but 6 months we're saying you can. And we're also specifying some guidelines in writing to go by. I mean, that's a win on our end, I think, right there. Having something to go by and having half the year saying that you can't.
Because right now, you've got nothing.
We have nothing.
So if somebody burns a fence down, you just gotta go put it out.
Yeah, but I'll tell you a true story, and I'll be brief, because I know we got something else coming, but this has happened before. We got a call for a lady, calls us that her neighbor's burning, wants us to come check it out, and we always have to, because they said it could get out of control, it's open to interpretation. We go, and we're met at the fire truck, they told me about this, and I didn't go on it, but with the baby and one in her hand like this, and says they both have asthma, they hadn't been able to come outside because he, and the neighbor's out there like this with his rake. It's just because he keeps burning all the time. And so we say, calm down, they go over there and say, sir, where are you burning? What are you burning? He's burning 2 or 3 piles of leaves, but he's watching them. He's got to burn them. So, and the guy says, well, you can't tell me I can't because I've been doing this for 28 years and I'm only doing what I know to do. Whose side do you jump on? And this would give us something. If he was within the time frame, we could have a checklist. We could start making checks and go through there and say, he's within a certain thing, and then we might could make a determination if it was a safety deal, the smoke was just rolling in. This gives us something, but that's the kind of stuff that we're met with, and we're putting a middle all the time on that. So this is a win.
didn't recently a yard burn result in a house burning?
Yes,
And the next door neighbor's house partially burning on Lee Circle?
Yes. Started from a burn pile in the back, and it was a bad situation. They had just had a fire there a week or 2 ago in the bathroom because of frozen pipes. And then he went to Lowe's to get the stuff to fix the pipe. 45 minutes, he was going to come back and house burn because of brush pile. That's just things that happen. Anyway. Either way,
Right now, you got nothing.
we have nothing. Yes, sir, that's correct.
What has been the comment since it was published? I mean, have you received feedback from people calling in, asking you questions about the ordinance and the discussion that was going to take place as far as this?
Actually, haven't received a lot, have not. The ones that call only ask, have we got something in place yet? And, I'm able to tell them that we have this workshop established and to come if they had input. And the rest of them, I've never had anybody call yet since we've started working on this year to say, well, I think you're crazy. Because I think people recognize, some people recognize that we're trying to do the right thing. Others are got it in their head that we're just trying to take away. But if they would listen to us all, we're trying to just put regulations in place to help everyone. Bryant, is a city now that's grown up, and we have to have something. But it has to be something that addresses the old Bryant too, with 2 acres and people that have been here, and that's been added in here. So I think where we're at now is a very good place.
I think this is a real good, unlike any other part of government right now, this is a real good middle ground for everybody, because basically we're saying 6 months you can, 6 months you can't, and there's even a carve out for the purpose of someone that's got a large lot like you're talking about.
We realize they got more stuff to burn, more stuff to deal with. Absolutely, they got better places on their property they can put it than right against the neighbor's fence. So I'm excited we've gotten this far.
Well, and that was the comments I received too, is, you know, a couple of comments I had that was not in favor of this. They had this misperception that we can't burn all year long. You're going to ban, you know, I said, wait a minute, you know, and that's not. So I think, you know, when this gets put into place and people see what's, you know, being done, and the fact that education in the newsletters and when they can burn and that they can burn, I think it will eliminate some of those calls, at least the drivers. That's why I was asking what kind of feedback that you had.
Not a lot, to be honest with you, but the ones that I've gotten feedback from, they were in favor of it, as long as it was done right. And I think that's what.
I heard there were some tonight that were afraid they were gonna get blown away and were gonna come and didn't come, that if everything was worded right and they could still do what they needed to do, they realized that that was, you know, all they needed was something so they could do it when they needed to do it, not be no time limit.
So where we're at, to recap on the dates, so we can.
December 31st to
March 1st, May 31st,
Everybody's good with that?
October 1st to December 31st.
What I would like to see us do is, who can write these?
me and JP will be working on it.
You guys kind of take it to or whatever and figure out. And then I'd like us to do, since we're in that period now, it's not gonna make any difference to do one read, get it to 30 days.
And y'all, and what we'll do, what I heard is there's a couple of questions about defining some terms, and whenever you're defining terms, that's always an issue. So, you know, we'll have a proposal for you for the April meeting, and if y'all need to mark it up or have some suggestions there, I think we're a lot closer now, and basically we can define some of this language, let y'all look at it, mull it over, if you want to do a reading on it, or if you want to kick it to next month, we can do that, but, I think we're about 95% there. That you get the rest of the way.
I'm still trying to figure out where this farm is.
Well,
I am too.
You thought, this is not Stuttgart.
we have to make this where it will fit all aspects of Bryant, and there are some places in Southern Landing. That Southern Landing where they have horses, they have pigs, they have cows, and they do burn those out there. They do burn the pasture off and things like that. And we're gonna probably annex some property in the future that is larger acreage towards the north at some point that has.
Now, if they have wheat, they can burn.
Whoa, if they had wheat.
You can burn wheat.
Oh, yeah, ADQ
You can burn
won't
wheat
even
stuff.
mess with you on that. But every burn or an open burning ordinance has a provision in there for agricultural type burning.
But you want us to work on these 3 days, identify those for you,
Special events.
or just put down as a special event.
I had to define the special events, I think, to some degree.
If you have any input on that, I think Rob mentioned he might have some input on the verbiage of defining special events relative to the smoke-free days. Please send that to, I guess, send it to Alderman Ingleton. He can.
Okay, which brings me to my next question. Notification. How you gonna notify? If there's a ball game Friday night and Friday's gonna be declared a smoke-free day, how are you going to word it?
My point to that is, you've got ball games on Monday night, you've got on Tuesday night, you've got on Thursday night, you've got on Friday night. Why are you just singling it out on Friday night?
It's usually the day.
Because I go for Thursday night ball game.
You did say, hey, you already got the money.
What about the JV?
I'm just saying,
Friday night football is big night.
I know, but
And we got called to the carpet last year by coach during one of those games on radio, television,
Pretty much.
because we smoked him out on beautiful October night.
Well,
Seems like we need to-
there are other options.
we need to make the time frame shorter.
I started, well, you don't need to make the time frame shorter, but you could, well, you will limit everything.
Okay,
You could
2
limit
hours
time
after
on
sunset.
days.
You could put a
Or
phrase in there that says that
All of them have
if
to be
it
out by.
affects a city function or school function, in any way that it can be asked to be put out.
Can we use code red
It's usually too late
for smoke-free days?
Well,
I would,
No, we've dropped our notification.
most ball games are meeting.
all we've got to notify me in place, not everybody's time.
It would be a good excuse to promote Notify Me for those that do burn their leaves, to sign up for that so that they get the notifications as to when the smoke-free days will be, because you don't always know a year in advance what those schedules are gonna be. And we need to use it in that manner, but it would be a tool that if we really do want more people using that service. So,
I think you could do smoke-free afternoons, basically, where you say, hey, extinguish it. And what you would do is if you have a complaint or problem, then you go up to them and say, hey, look, that ball game, we declared 5 o'clock on, appreciate you putting the fire out, no biggie. Sign up here to notify me, and that way you'll get notification when we do this. I think we could work something like that in so that, it's one of the issues I had. My neighbor loved to light his stuff off at 5:30 in the evening when I pulled in the driveway. But he was home all day, and I was like, man, burn the stuff in the day and be done.
He's waiting on the wind to die.
Now, he's waiting on me to show up.
Waiting on Chris to show up because he knows how much you like to.
Also,
That wouldn't happen.
Also,
That's right.
I know,
the
right?
track meets, I mean, you've got track meets where kids are outside and they're running.
Yeah. And I think,
During the day.
let JP and I mull on that. I think we got the general idea of what y'all are wanting, and we just need to create
Because
some.
my concern is with it, that it be put in the ordinance somehow or another,
Oh,
that
yeah.
way it's not left open
Oh, yeah.
to interpretation, because
That's part of the defining, that's part of the defining it.
Yeah. I don't want to send those guys out there in a fire truck to ask somebody to put something out that doesn't
They don't
say
have
that they have the
Yeah,
authority to do.
you're going, we're talking about, a large area, you go out to wherever, as far as city limits go, they're burning over there, it's not gonna affect school up here.
Right, you hate to penalize those people who are,
I say
In the
maybe
impact
1 mile around the school, central school campus.
I have concerns about geographically locating your ordinance for enforcement purposes. I mean, maybe you can, but I have some initial concerns about it. I think,
Can municipal league tell us about that?
Would you be good with?
Because that's the only
Yeah.
area we're talking about,
Yeah.
is about 1 mile around the
well, what
central campus.
you would need to do is define that area and basically you would have your residential vegetation abatement acre, your size, and then you say, and then if you're in this area, special rules apply to you. Maybe.
Why don't you guys think about it and come back with a solution?
I think limited to special events like that because it's still included in those special events. We're talking about Fall Fest and Halloween and a lot of other things. It's a lot farther than just around that football field. So maybe, but I think what Chris said would probably be pretty good. Just have them on that day, stop it that afternoon about 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
have them totally extinguished where they don't.
It's not like everybody's gonna be burning
No.
on that Friday afternoon.
Or Thursday or
Pretty simple
Tuesday.
thing, go out there and say, hey, you
Right.
put that down.
Going back to the notification of it on those times, there's several means available. We can,
And anytime you got a call, JP, you go to them and say, hey, sign up here, that way you can get notifications,
That's gonna be a learning
so,
curve.
yeah. So we'll be handing out many copies of this. And on that, we can incorporate the city website, the instructions on how to sign up. We have our fire department Facebook page we could update daily and have that the city has one. I would like the ability to also, I know we could give dispatch that information because they'll receive calls on it, but I'd also like the ability, which we currently do not have, to update our greeting on our fire department. You've reached City of Bryant Public Safety for 1 press, for 2 press. This is considered a smoke-free day. We can put that on there.
Yeah.
Right now, we can't modify that greeting without, but we just hadn't been able to in the past. So we could also incorporate into that. I think there's several methods we get the word out. When we might could do some signage, we can put out in different locations throughout the city. You know, saying today, smoke-free day, no after 5.
Don't call it sign ordinance.
We can work on that. No, we can't without, no signs.
Oh, you can have that.
We'll do whatever we can do to get the word out.
Okay, thank you.
We can
Y'all did a great job. Okay, so Brandon, I believe you're up. We're going to talk about spirits in the park.
Oh, yeah. I'll let you give you guys some time to read these to start, just because I invited the Parks Committee here at 7, because I was doing the schedule, so I want to give them time to, appreciate y'all time to kind of.
Thank y'all.
Swing by, and that's there.
Yeah.
You have like my copies of these?
Those came from Rich and Nolan Machine. Those food too.
Can you have an electronic copy of your?
I do, actually.
Yes. Can you email that to me? Because JP and I are gonna work on it. Mrs. Chandler, do you have an electronic copy of your version?
He typed it out, he typewriter.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got his copy he sent me, I'll send that
I've got
to
it.
you too.
You can fax you a copy.
We'll start working on it tomorrow.
I'm trying to get electronic copies, so I don't have
If
to,
anybody wants to look at these.
so I don't have to type the whole thing.
We'll go to Zoom systems, just from your office.
No, I got some more. You may need another copy to mark up.
Yeah, just swing by.
Of course, if you were, whatever, you could scan it.
I can scan anything, I just don't have
I'll send it to you. You have a record on it?
He's got 4 copies.
Yeah, you just go.
No, I'm good.
Oh, Debbie, I mean, Miss Broadway.
That's not mine. That's-
I'll give her one of those,
Which one? This is yours.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is yours. I'm getting it. Here's mine. Here's the.
On everything. Thank you.
Chandler said something out here. Take your time and look through that, you guys. I got Greg and some Parks Committee members that are going to be here. I've got done a lot earlier than anticipated. I like that.
What's the ordinance that prohibits alcohol in the park right now?
Right, you've got 2 of them. One is specifically at Mills Park, and that's 9013. And the one that is unlawful possession of alcohol in Bryant City Parks is 2030.
2030?
1030, correct.
So those two would be updated?
I was gonna, it would, yeah, I mean,
Okay.
we're
That was
discussing that today.
1990?
What's that? 90, just 90-13.
Okay.
Yeah. I was gonna print these off in the parks, but our printer's on Fritz again, so I decided that I can email this out to you guys if you need. But it's just a copy of the ordinance numbers, I think you got that.
You know, one thing I'll say while we're waiting is, I feel as though that we have to use Bishop Park down there for everything we can, all it can be. You know, we're competing, and this may not be the place, or, the city of Benton's on the news every night promoting the city of Bryant and what, or the city of Benton, and what all they're doing down there. And I think that we need to have an answer. I talked to some people that operate that Memphis flea market.
Yeah.
They could only get like 3 dates down there all year. You know, could they come here? They would. But we do need to be competitive. And this is a major step in being competitive.
Yes.
Without this, we're not even in consideration.
We're really looking to, our thing is maximizing our local resources. I'm a huge advocate of that, and I think this is a really good stringent way of doing that. And I think that this
It's
package
got
right
nothing to
here,
do down at the ballparks.
no,
I am for using our Bishop Park facilities and to maximize our events. But the open parks like Mills, Alcoa, Midland, Ashley, I don't understand how alcohol would be acceptable in those parks for any events. That's my problem with having alcohol in all the parks.
sure,
I can understand Bishop for sure,
controlled environments.
because you've got a controlled environment, you've got buildings, you've got a way that you can park, and you've got a way that you can police and uphold the ordinances.
Correct.
But when you've got an open park and just a pavilion, I don't understand how we can make
Well-
that safe for all the other people that's going to be out in the park, and how that would be beneficial
The,
to citizens.
and it's, well, beneficial wise is really just, is more of, being able to raise funds to take care of our parks. So, I mean, that's what the benefit is. But the detriment is obviously, can we control that? That's a big question. And obviously in a park, it's harder to control. I think any park would tell you that. This actually is much of this special events application is a combination of several parks, including Fort Smith, much bigger city that utilizes festivals, et cetera. Mills Park is really the one park that I think even from park staff sitting down, we've really tried to put a lot of thought into. It's hard because you have playgrounds. You have more of a younger clientele of kids, and there's a reason that there's an ordinance in here for Mills Park. Because years and years ago, there was issues with alcohol in the park. And no matter what, there's always issues with alcohols in the park. If anything,
I live on Mills Park.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
much aware of that timeframe.
Now, when it comes to, I'll give you an example, Bishop Park even. A lot of our festivals that we do, we use Bishop. You've got two multi-purpose fields in the very back of the park that would be an easy way to secure in the corner of the park, away from ball associations, away from youth activities. You can secure it with fencing. That's very, very simple. Those are areas that you could, outside of the building, secure very simply, and would be a huge revenue producer for family reunions. I've honestly had a lot of people call looking to do things, that family reunions, class reunions.
Put up the
big
tents.
events. The tents, sectioning it up. A beer garden is really the best way to do it. A 4-foot fence that goes by about an 80 by 50 area. And you have someone at that gate, and that's actually specified in this application how that works. So that is how you would do that in parks like Bishop. Ashley Park, for instance, Field 2 is already fenced in. You make another fenced area for a beer garden. If you're looking to do, and part of our committee is really big in our Parks Committee, I know Lisa's here right now, and I don't see any of our Parks Committee here yet, is an advocate for trying to raise money earmarked towards these parks so we can keep them up to date and renovate them and can stay ahead of the curve, just like Jerry was saying a second ago. You could do that in these fenced facilities at Ashley, especially when you can control the permits on who's using those fields at those times in off-season for baseball. There isn't anyone else in that park. There isn't any playground in that park that's luring kids in there to go and play around alcohol, so you can secure that. Same thing with Alcoa. Alcoa, if you have all of those areas secure, that's the best gated facility we have in the entire city. I mean, to get in there from a sporting venue side of things, the number one thing you want to control is your gate, because that's where you really control your money and your security. And Alcoa, there's one open gate, the rest of them are locked, a fence all the way around them. There's just no other way to get in. So those would be the facilities that we could utilize for special events, for reunions, et cetera, that would want to have something like this. And then you have a checklist on the back, and it was requested this last time around that we have guidelines to go over. And you can see these 1- and 2-step guidelines on the very, very back page that concern wristbands, tickets, cups, because a lot of police want to see single-color cups. That's how you regulate an event such as that. It's very easy to see. Bryant police officers, the number of staff they're going to have, and this is actually what the permitter or the vendor would give to me, saying they're having this event, and I would say this is what you need to show me that you're doing to regulate both keeping minors from obtaining alcohol. Here's the steps. Here's 2 steps you could do. I need one of those. And I also need sample plans for keeping spectators from bringing their own alcohol, because you don't want them to bring their own. We want to tell them they need to use what we have, so we can regulate that and shut that down. And there's 2 steps on here: change of coolers, refusing service, arrests by the Bryant police officers, refusal of events.
So you feel like the one baseball field that you're talking about, that's the one that's all the way in the back?
Which park are you speaking about?
At Bishop.
Bishop, those are actually multi-purpose fields, and they're technically soccer/football/ pretty much anything you want to make them fields.
They're back at the very, very back.
Right.
Very, very back.
By the lake.
By the lake, and it's up in the pads, and you go up to the very top corner of that lake, and you can very easily secure that area.
Okay.
There's a walking trail that goes around the back there, but you can close that off just as easily because there's one access point to that walking trail. So you can close down that part of the park and you gate it.
So if we maybe looked at maybe that field and maybe Alcoa Park as like a test run to see, I agree with Ms. Miller. I just don't think alcohol in Miller Park or
Miller Park, hey, we got a sponsor already?
Miller Park.
It already exists.
I just don't know if that's the best
Which
place.
one's better?
Could we not shift those people, those events from Mills Park?
Oh,
to-
easily. You know, with that, I was really expressing options. I mean, this is really, and that's why I like.
I want
sitting
to
here and open
generate
up.
revenue and be safe for our
Mhm.
children. I don't want to, I'm all for this if it's in the proper place.
Yeah,
And, I think that's in Bishop Park in the inside, in the
Yeah.
rooms upstairs. And I would listen about Alcoa Park and that other field. That gives us 3 options that we don't have now.
Ashley would be, it's right next door to us
The
right
only,
now.
the only concern I've got about Ashley is the parking.
Oh, yeah, parking's horrendous.
I can tell
It's
you
street
from
parking.
baseball experience,
Yeah,
and then the noise, all the neighbors get real testy, if you got a mix of
And
it.
just
And
go
see-
with Alco and Bishop at first,
Well, I
like
know.
Jerry said.
And see how it's working. If it's working and we're missing events, then we may need to come back and revisit bringing some other parks into it.
yeah. And the reason I put Ashley out there is, I've had a lot of individuals who are interested in getting events at Ashley Park. So this was an easy way, like, hey, like a barbecuing event in the park. That'd be an easy thing we could make on the field, off-season baseball. I can regulate the facility in terms of permitting. There's no kids around there.
But we could also move that event.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, we can tell them where, that's the beauty of it. You can
Yeah.
tell them where these can happen. You approve these areas.
So one other question with that, do we have usage agreements with the soccer association, baseball association, et cetera, for those fields year round?
At Midland Park, Midland's not on this one.
Out there, at the back?
Oh, no, that's, the backfields at Bishop? No, that's ours.
Okay, so what about Ashley?
Yes, baseball association does. That'd be something that I do off-season, I work out with the baseball association.
What about Alcoa?
Alcoa Softball Association and Football Association during their season, and that's something that I would work with them, and not around any of their, not
Other
around-
than football, is Alcoa used that much?
Other than football, yeah, softball. And then, of course, we have even people coming for basketball, baseball tournaments out there with temporary mounds. I mean, it gets used for a lot of practices, tournaments right now. We have tournaments out there that are
I
playing.
know, my granddaughter's gonna go to a tournament out there this weekend. But I'm just saying, I'm just wondering if Alcoa is used very much.
It is during the ball season, yes. Other than that, it's not right now.
Like summertime and the,
Well, when we have fall ball and we have any special events, we have the animal controlmen out there having events in those, it's great because they're gated areas for those fields. So, I mean, it's a really easy way to take your dog and secure an area. If you've been to like Burns Park, you've seen pretty similar things where they can gate an area for certain sizes of dogs.
That football field would be perfect for like a huge family event or something,
We've,
way back there.
yeah, we try to keep that football field for, it's a huge, I mean, it's about 120 some odd yards. I mean, it's 60 yards across, but of course they striped it for little kids. But they're only using it in the fall. And so in the off season, we let it repair, and unfortunately someone actually drove on it not too long ago and got down there and got through our gate. So we've been gating it off, trying to let it repair, but we can utilize that for soccer leagues. I've had men's soccer leagues approach us about utilizing that area. So we have a lot of things we could do out there. That's like I said, I'm trying to maximize those resources we have. It's easy ways.
Can we do a lot of the things that they do at the event center, can we do that in Bishop Park?
Yeah, I don't wanna house the alcohol. I want to see.
No,
everything.
I mean as far as events.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now, the one thing about Benton, and this is kind of the business strategy of it, their prices are higher and they're able to do a lot more by doing
Because,
something
what,
like
they're
this.
able to do more because they have
Well,
alcohol.
alcohol, yes, for one big one. Number two, they have a lot more flexibility in the size of some of the facilities they have, and the layout of it is just different.
But we can still get our share of the events out.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I
And
mean,
who's gonna be in charge of, is that gonna be your job?
Greg Thompson is our special events coordinator. So his number's
But
on
you
here
got
as
a lot
well.
of leagues going at the same
Yeah.
time that would have to be
Oh, yeah.
interrupted to
Yeah.
take care of these events. You
Yeah.
got basketball
I
and
know.
all that stuff, so.
Yeah,
I just think that we need to
Oh, you're preaching to the choir on
do what we need to do to be competitive and to be competitive 10 years from now. We're behind the 8 ball, and we gotta play catch-up.
that. Yeah.
Something I'll throw
2
in
years
that
is gonna get real
kind of
serious.
chimes along here is one competitive advantage that Brandon's trying to bring to the table is that we've got some outdoor facilities that the Benton Event Center doesn't have.
Exactly.
So there are events like a crawfish boil or barbecue fest or those types of things that are
That we
getting
can
more
do that
popular
they can't.
that we could do that they wouldn't be able to do because it's indoors.
Okay.
You do good with us, the one you gave us at the meeting, proving number one, which is alcohol, Bishop Park. And on number two, permits in city parks, we can just take out Mills Park and Ashley Park for now and go 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. I
Which
would-
is alcohol 40 in the Bishop Park
Yes.
multi-purpose fields and let you see how it goes.
Yeah, and that's something too, if we did something like that, I'd be, before I came forward, if anything, for any of, especially, Alcoa 40, that's something I thought the softball association, the Bryant Athletic Association first, to say, hey, this is what we're looking to do. I wanna make sure you guys are comfortable with this, because they utilize these areas as well. I wanna make sure everyone's on the same page.
Based on their approval.
What's that?
I said we can base it on their approval.
Yeah, yeah, correct.
I'll just-
And I've already reached out to the senior center and the Boys and Girls Club. When we're doing this, it's off hours for Boys and Girls Club programming. So in the gymnasium itself, and we have, and most of you have been in any of the winter banquets or any of the big events in the gym, you realize we have that facility completely blocked off. There's nothing else going on except potentially seniors walking the walking track as people using the different equipment. But no one's had.
Brandon, okay, this gets all filled out in that part of it, who approves it?
Well, looking on this, that's something to discuss too. Filling this all out, the first couple of pages here, as you can see, this is actually the ordinance. It's similar to what they have in Fort Smith. This is actually what the ordinance reads, and this is the ordinance. I mean, it's almost the exact same thing. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. Event
This could be
application.
attached to the ordinance?
You know,
Is that
It
what
says
you're saying?
it says to the ordinance, yeah, this is what you need to fill out before you can have any event, specifying exactly what they need to do in approval. 45 days, everything. And I think I have that ordinance number. Fort Smith Ordinance Section 24-201, if you want to look at that. You can just go to the Municode website and look that up. It'll take you right to this.
All right, who approves this?
This goes, well, we have a Bryant PD page here at the back. I approve these permits. It goes through myself. I will still take these to our Parks Committee, just to be transparent. But I think it needs to go through myself to make sure that there isn't any issues at all. I think that I'm the person ultimately that has a handle on this and make sure the security is what it needs to be.
So if somebody's permit gets declined,
It's
are
me.
they gonna call the Parks
Right.
Committee members and complain to them?
Nope,
It's you.
it's me.
Okay.
I love getting it. That's great.
That's what I'm gonna do.
And actually, we do that,
What?
actually, Mr. Brodell did that for a reason. He has the discretionary authority under municipal law and immunity. If he's exercised discretion within the parameters, as long as he's not abusing that, then the city's protected.
I have just a question. I'm getting in late in this entire conversation, but regarding the beverages that would be served, the city's not going to become the beverage holder and dispenser.
No. We're gonna utilize a third party. We're gonna go to a beverage provider and look for an exclusive contract with them. They're gonna provide it, and the third party's gonna deal with them. We're not gonna house the alcohol.
Okay. Well, for example, I'm able to get alcohol donated as well from those like distributors.
Mhm.
Would I be able to bring that into my event after the permitting has gone through?
You can't bring the alcohol in, but if you work with the distributor, let's say it's not always use Glaciers because of the biggest around, but like the Glaziers, you'd reach out to Glaziers and say, we have to deal with you for this checklist and this event.
Okay.
And Glaziers would be the one, you would negotiate the price with them, if you will.
Okay.
That's something that the city isn't, I'm not in the business of selling alcohol.
Okay,
I'm in the
good.
business of selling
That
permits.
part, yeah.
And mentioned we were talking just beer and wine, no spirits?
Yes,
anything like
beer and
that.
wine, no liquor. There's no, say alcohol, I mean beer and wine. I think that's pretty evident on here as well. So, did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
It did. I think if we're gonna make this go, though, I mean, nobody is gonna be surprised by my saying, I mean, I like a cocktail every now and again, and I think that if you're gonna.
Whoa. You know this is recorded. Time out.
I mean it.
I apologize in advance.
Turn them off. Saved Christian woman and God loves me, so he does not have a problem with that. Hallelujah, amen. But my point being this, that I think that we need, if we're gonna explore all of this visually, and I mean, beer and wine is fine, but for this, like, the Boys and Girls Club Gala event, we served cocktails and mixed drinks, and I don't want
I was there.
big, I know you were, and I appreciate it, but I don't want something like that. I'm not saying that the club's never gonna have an event at Bishop, I'm not implying that at all, but I think if we're in this conversation, we need to look at doing a real package. That, if you're going to bring this in and you want hard spirits or hard liquor there, you're gonna have to pay X more to do that, and you have to compound additional security or something else that needs to go along with the safety of the property.
And we've spoken to the Parks Committee about that. They're not very comfortable, especially in the front end. We're being very, in the future, that's something that definitely we're being very conservative. I mean, this is if you've read this, guys, it's very conservative and very detailed for a reason. I think in the future, that's something that you could definitely look into, because obviously other event centers do that. But we want to learn to walk before we can run. And I think that making sure that we're harboring a safe environment is really important for the parks.
Sure.
So,
I think if you want to look at hard spirits, you could limit it to events at the center.
Upstairs,
Because
Yeah.
that way you have control.
Lights off.
Control over it.
yeah.
Banquets, things of that nature.
Then I'm very happy that this conversation's happening, and I would hope that it would move forward with that
Call it
in mind.
Debbie Broadway.
Yeah.
So-
Say
I'll write
it,
that down real
write
quick.
it.
I got Parks Committee on Monday, so I want to make
Debbie
sure the Broadway
Broadway
clause
wants
is here.
booze at the park.
So it's, I guess discussion-wise,
And two, let me, if we completely excuse hard alcohol, then I think that will eliminate us getting some events. It would eliminate us from having to Starlight Gala.
it would.
And how can we eliminate our own event?
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Listen, if people
but I
are
don't-
gonna get drunk and cause problems, they're gonna get drunk drinking beer, drinking wine. Hey, I've been as drunk as a skunk on all of them. Okay? So,
Is this a revival or something?
That's what put Debbie and Jerry together to have
I want audio and video.
Jerry Henson.
no, I'm all about giving you all the tools you need to be successful in your job.
Okay.
That's what I'm about.
Okay.
And bringing these things to you, you can create more, you can do more, and we can be competitive. If we sit around and continuously let Benton run over us like a freight train, we have got to get
We haven't had a
competitive.
salt bowl lately, have we?
They're putting a $45 million complex in. We have got to get there.
I understand. That's for a different day. But this is the beginning. This is a
Right.
step forward. And, yeah, I'd be okay with that.
That's something that I'll discuss at our Parks Committee meeting on Monday, about the opportunity or the option of having that at Bishop Park and improved facilities. I would say definitely if we're gonna do the upstairs rooms, I'd say the gymnasium is just as easy to secure, to be honest, and for big events.
Yeah.
For hard liquor, it wouldn't really make much of a difference if it was just upstairs or just downstairs. You could be pretty
No,
close.
if we're gonna do it, you're right. It doesn't matter if it's upstairs or downstairs.
Yeah,
But only in that building,
yeah.
nowhere else.
Not in the swimming pool.
No swimming pool? See, that's gonna be.
Ah, no, wait a minute.
No, we're, Yeah, we're upstairs facilities, downstairs, they're gonna be, like I gave you guys before, there's minimum hour reservation requirements, 45 days prior to, so we're getting the people who are planning events, not the ones who are gonna be problem makers. We'll discuss this on Monday at our Parks Committee. We got a couple members here, if any of you guys want to discuss, this is pretty open.
If we get into serving what would be defined maybe as hard liquor, I'm assuming we would have them contract or hire a bartender
I
who
would
actually
have
do that service?
a bartender on contract.
Most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes, I don't want them to get the bartender. I would have an approved contract
Right.
bartender, and honestly, we could have it to where they pay us a fee for a bartender, and we go
There you
contract
go.
that, and you can make even more money doing that. And they're gonna use Bryant PD $20 an hour.
But does that, what does that do to us? I mean, what if it's our bartender
It's not, it's
serving
contractor.
a 19-year?
Yeah.
Or one that we hired?
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't hire anybody, so we're not being employed.
Yeah.
We contract with it.
Correct.
And all of those terms would be involved in the contract, for basically putting the responsibility on the bartender.
So that's
Yes.
something we're not
The
working on.
the bartender is the person that is in charge, involved with overpouring or any issues you would come across on that, and that's what the other cities do.
It's just like you hire somebody to overlay the streets and they do it wrong.
It would be on there.
So-
Whatever.
We have all immunity in this, it's all safe, it's all detailed on here. The police have a police event checklist as well.
I got one question. What is the City of Bryant, Arkansas Police Department?
What's that? It's just, you know, trying to get as big as
I
possible.
can't believe you missed it.
I haven't read this.
City of Bryant, Arkansas Police Department.
Oh,
Brian,
I did that for you.
oh, thanks.
I want to be really specific for you guys. I want a location, area code, a list of their fears.
I had to take out the GPS.
I left it on there just to be safe.
So is this going to go to the parks and come back to us?
Yeah, I'm gonna attend a lot of
In
committees
another
meet here.
workshop, or what's the
We're
plan?
gonna address this in the Parks Committee, and then we'll be drafting an ordinance much like this that will come to your approval at the next council meeting. So that would be the plan,
In
and
April or in May?
in the end of the month.
April.
So in
That's
April.
the plan. And that's why we wanted to have this tonight, to kind of get an idea of the parameters of what you
Yeah.
guys think work. And so that way we were writing to what we discussed this evening rather than writing just without any guidance, so.
The open dialogue really helps, especially because, you know, we don't want to shoot first, ask questions later, we're coming with an ordinance, we want to make sure that we have thought this out completely, we have everyone's endorsement, and, you know, as safe as possible, and you guys see all the angles, so that's kind of.
And the benefit is you guys, you know, out there and with experiences, you've seen things and issues that maybe we hadn't thought of. So it's an opportunity, you know, you're asking questions, it's like, oh, that's something we need to address and think about.
Well, I mean, I was all against, you know, alcohol in the ball fields, except for this ball field. That makes sense. I just had this.
Can I ask one thing? Is anybody watching the weather and how long do we have to play this?
11 o'clock, we're good.
Very good, thank you.
Butch, are you finding a radio?
Done. And you're going over to Ashley Park, see what's going on.
That's so happy to see him, he's getting out of here.
Jerry,
going fast.
Did you
Mine
say?
says 11 o'clock.
Say that again?
Fort Smith ordinance?
Their ordinance is section 24-201, and you're gonna get 24-201. And you're gonna get, what you're gonna get is something that looks almost identical to this, will be uniformed for the city of Bryant, and went through and made modifications. Greg put this together for us and has been all kinds of contact with them. And they've been very, very helpful to make sure that we're doing it right.
They have lots of events in Fort Smith.
Yes, they do. We actually had our ARPA there last year, so.
You actually have, it's an
It's a state's one, it'll take forever. I'm sorry, you look.
I I'm just saying,
It's stretching it for me to go there. I'm saying.
I think if you can come around, I think this is a good compromise. It gives them more than one opportunity.
I think,
It gives you more opportunity to house different events.
yes, and a big reason for all those parks listed is because all the parks that draw a public crowd, we actually have permits that are available for those parks. And also that we wanted to earmark the money that we made with these new revenues we've pulling in and be able to put them back into that park so that we can make improvements and honestly just work more like a business. Take care of our own. Probably don't have to. I mean, I don't think
I don't.
Kids and all sorts of stuff, I just can't go to the other ones, but I'll stretch to there, but I understand this one for sure.
Right.
This is where most of them are. Things
Yeah, if you
Other
y'all,
We need a place for outside, maybe it would be.
you want? I don't want to know what you're looking at.
I do want
You
it.
know, you let's start.
You got parking and everything there.
The ball, I'm not just whatever they call it. You know, and if somebody wants to have a outdoor cook-off or whatever, I mean, we still would have another option.
Class reunion.
Yeah.
Some capitalization.
It needs to be consistent.
It was consistent. You made it specifically inconsistent.
Alcoa.
That's not what I think about the other
All right.
ones. I'm stretching.
It's duly noted.
I don't think I could ever go.
Who will spell check on it?
It's-
All right, are we done here?
Yeah, I mean, unless you guys have anything else.
Hey, I think you did a great job.
I was, a lot of Greg over here, he's
Well,
the guy who's
whoever-
gonna be putting these things together, so.
Take the bills and actually have a, go for it.
All right,
We love the park, you'll pull the wagon.
all right.
And
Good,
if
guys.
centers, hard liquor in there.
Milton, Ashley, and Midland.
I need the sauce.
Yeah,
You can reference me.
Don't forget the Broadway clause.
Broadway clause is
Oh,
on
those are
there.
definitely-
That's me, will agree with that.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the last item on the agenda tonight is to discuss the elected attorney's position. Glad you opened up.
Well, I wanted to really get a report from Josh and see how the prosecution is going, or just, get the outlook, have an update on all that, and see how it's looking.
Sure, it's gone really well so far. I started, we had our meeting last Tuesday, and I came in here Wednesday morning, and met with Curtis. The mayor had met with him before. I didn't know that had happened, but so he wasn't entirely surprised, which was good. We talked quite a bit that day. I came back the next day, and we've been together ever since. I couldn't make it today because I had something previously scheduled, but it's gone really well. He's been extremely helpful to me. I see no problems in transitioning it over to me in May 1st. They've got a great team of resources. One of the first things he told me was this is the best team you can come in and work with in any deal I'm ever going to have. And I think he's right. The case coordinator and the clerk to the judge are both very well-versed and professional and prepared, and they do a great job.
I think that maybe we should just see how these prosecution duties are going, and kind of maybe drop some of the other things that were in the other ordinance. And but one of my main concerns is that we do change it so that Josh is getting paid what we were paying to do those contracting duties. Other than that, I don't see a problem with just letting things, kind of see how things go with the prosecution duties.
I'll go first.
And if you guys, I'm going to jump in real
Go
quick. I'm sorry if you don't mind. I appreciate that. First of all, I just want to say thank you for tabling this so that we can have an open dialogue. And this is probably what we should have done first, is get together and get around the table and talk about what your thoughts and opinions are. Like Brandon said earlier, if we can have open dialogue, that's always going to be better than shooting from the hip. And that's pretty much what I was doing. It wasn't helping you guys, it wasn't helping me, and it wasn't helping Chris, it wasn't helping me. So I appreciate you setting this opportunity up. And I know you've got thoughts and opinions. I prepared a very primitive document. I didn't bring the ordinance or anything, I just scrapped it, left it at home. But this is just a spectrum of kind of what some options are that can help us guide this conversation, things to think about. Starts with do absolutely nothing, walk away and leave it as is, to, change it to the last ordinance that was on the agenda, if that makes sense. I'll pass it out and you can go ahead, sorry to interrupt.
That's fine. And maybe before I start, I know that Mr. Steele had asked if there were public comments. I feel like if he's taking his time to come out here tonight, if he has something he wants to say, if that's not an issue with anyone else, I think he should be able to say what he has on his mind.
Or anybody else.
Right, yeah, that's the only one that I heard from, so that's why I did that. But you're right, if there's anyone else out there, if we can somewhat limit him just a little bit of positive. But go ahead.
Thank you, council. Having been on the council for a long period of time, I was familiar with the ordinance, like the elected city attorney. It limited the duties and salaries for that particular job. However, in talking with the citizens of Bryant who voted in the last election, they were under the impression that the person that they were going to elect was going to be the city attorney. And I've had several people comment since then that they're disappointed in the fact that that didn't happen. I just wanted to make you folks aware of that. I've talked to some people who had the same thought, the same opinion as to what they thought they were voting on.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. I'm just going to tell you how I feel about this entire issue. I agree that the ordinance that we have is out of date and it needs some tweaking. It needs to be looked at to make changes that we need. I know that when Josh, and I want to say this, I have a lot of respect for Josh, and I like Josh. Josh knows I disagree, but we're still okay. This is the way I feel, and this is what I've never been able to square in my mind. First of all, we had an ordinance in place when Josh ran for that job. He clearly knew what his job description was and what his pay was going to be. Okay, that was there's no way you could not understand that. This is where I have a large problem. First of all, is if we take this particular ordinance or this job description and we change it, if we go to the last, I'm going to start there and then work up. If we change it to a salary of $70,000 a year, $30,000 to do misdemeanors, the ability to keep and maintain a private practice, and get full benefits of health, dental, whatever benefits the city offers. I have to believe that if these people that you've had these conversations with, because I've had the same conversations with different people. I've got a friend of mine now, and she won't even speak to me over this issue. But this is what we can't change it after the fact. If in fact that were advertised as $70,000 a year to do this, you're going to get $30,000 to do this, you can maintain your own practice, and we're going to give you full city benefits. I have to believe there would have been other people run for this job. I mean, there is a huge difference in a $10,000 a year job and probably $150 by the time you work in benefits and, I had a conversation, and this is where I'm new at this, but I have to, I was elected to do what I felt was right for this city. I do not feel it's right to somewhat run for a job and have people on the council that are willing to change it. I just don't think that passes the smell test to all at me. I don't see how anyone can justify taking a job and completely changing it after an election from a $10,000 a year job to $100 and something thousand a year job. I don't think that's right. I have spoke to many people that feel differently about this. After I explained to them the way I feel, they agreed 100%. I know that there are some people out there that had a perception of what the city attorney job was. There were also a lot of people out there that had no idea. You would think in your mind the city attorney is going to make more than $10,000 a year. I would think that. I don't know of an attorney that would work for $10,000 a year. But we got one. Right?
So does it solve all this if we just go ahead and do the misdemeanors?
Well,
And-
this is what-
And drop the
But at the same
75,000
time,
and
when he
everything?
was elected, the prosecuting duties were already being contracted. So those duties were contracted out.
And that's been
changed. But the ordinance says that's
I have one question, I don't know who it would really go to, but if Chris resigned tomorrow, just bear with me here, if he just resigned tomorrow for some reason, who would take over the duties as the attorney then? Where would that power go to?
Well, the way it's under the deal right now, Mayor Dabbs is going to get to appoint somebody unless we change
No, we
it.
have an elected one.
There's a difference. I think what everybody's missing is there's a difference between a staff attorney and a city attorney. It's two different positions, and everybody's trying to make it one, and it's not one. It's two different positions. Where I work, we have two staff attorneys in our office. And if we need some other legal work done, the attorney general, who is elected, is our attorney. But we have two staff attorneys. There's a difference. They're not trying, our two staff attorneys are not trying to take his job because he's an elected official. So it's two different things, and I agree wholeheartedly with Jerry. You knew what the job was, you knew what the responsibilities were, you knew what it paid. And I think to have this conversation now is basically a waste of time. I think if you want to change, or if people want it changed, come back to me in 3.5 years before the next election. And so it can be changed then prior to the filing period, so those people will know what they're running for. So,
Even though we have the contracted attorney that has resigned, and now those duties are open,
Those duties shouldn't be open. Josh shouldn't be doing, I think you are doing.
I mean, that was the attorney at that time, though, when we contracted that position.
as of May 1st, that attorney has resigned.
You're talking about Judge Ricker Curtis.
Right. And now then, that contract is being dissolved.
Correct.
So whenever this position was filed for, those duties were under contract. Now then, they're not, because he's resigned.
Well, they're not under contract because we have a city attorney now. We have a man that ran for a job to do those specific duties.
But
That's what that job is.
Aren't the duties of the elected city attorney to prosecute misdemeanors?
That's it.
So
And that's what he's doing, from my understanding.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
That's what he's doing.
All right, well, so.
But I think Butch has something, he's being patient and they're raising.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just trying to be nice. I have two things. First, I agree with Alderman Gladden. I'd like to see us address the salary issue. Obviously, it's one the one that ever ran for it in the first place. And the second thing is, as a citizen of Bryant, when Josh and Doug started the campaign, I thought like a whole lot of other citizens of Bryant, that's a city attorney position, full-fledged city attorney position. Why in the world would they do it for $10,000? So I went home and looked up the ordinance to see what in the world it was and what they were doing, because they're out of their minds for running for that job for $10,000. And it's obviously, it said prosecute misdemeanors. I still wouldn't, and nobody ever did run for it for $10,000. That's ridiculous. We had to pay somebody $30 to do it now. But the other thing I'd like to say is, you know, as a citizen, that's what I thought they were running for, and I know a lot of people that voted that way. I'd like to see us at least, you know, as a city of 20,000 people, you know, the people that I've spoken to, a large majority of them want to see an elected position for a full-fledged city attorney. I'd like to see us put a panel together and work on that and get that into position before the next election, and have a clause in there where if something does happen to Chris, God forbid it ever does, but that, you know, then the elected official can take a step into that position. We need to put that together, in my opinion, for the citizens of Bryant. The salary and everything, just, you know.
So Alderman Higginbotham, you're really saying similar to what Alderman Chandler's saying, you're saying it in a different manner.
Yes, I agree with it. It's just, I think we need to put a panel together and get that done, where we have it in position.
And, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And what the city attorney is saying is, these are, it's big letters, so I said five options.
Right.
With number C being what he's doing now, from what I understand, when Judge Rickert resigns on May 1st.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And then, wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
Within the $30,000 that Judge Rickert was being paid, would then convey to the city attorney, right?
Only if you pass it by ordinance.
Yeah, we'd have to change the ordinance.
And I do want to throw something in about compensation that I learned today. I checked because I had a hunch this was probably the case, and it was true. I checked with the municipal league, and as a prosecutor, even though I only prosecute a couple days a week within this city limits, within this jurisdiction, I am barred or conflicted out or precluded from defending any criminal defendants or representing them in any other jurisdiction. So I can prosecute here on a Wednesday morning, and court's over at noon. I can't run up to Little Rock and defend somebody. So that's got two major implications. Number one, there's a large opportunity cost that when I look at the economics of it, I could, and that's not a large part of my practice now, but I'll make quite a bit more than $10,000 picking up a few criminal defendants, representing them here and there. But also, I've got a handful of hearings scheduled in May or June that I've got to recuse myself of tomorrow and write checks back to those people who've already paid me. I think that's something important to consider. Maybe that's something I should have considered back in August when I threw my name in the hat. But it is what it is.
Well, let me say this. To address what Alderman Higginbotham was talking about. You asked the question, well, why did you run for a job for $10,000 a year? Because that wasn't the plan. The plan was to get elected and change it after the election. I have talked to people that were on this council that are not on this council before. And the exact words to me was, we almost had it done. I can't make any of that square in my mind. I am in favor of changing this ordinance, re-looking the whole shooting match, but not until the next election cycle.
And I think that's very fair. I think there are compelling reasons to do it.
I don't
there are
think we can
compelling reasons
change
not to.
anything, because once we start changing any part of it, that opens the door to change a million different things. And I believe that the people feel the way they do, some do, you're not ever, as we all know, because they don't really know the facts. Had they known the facts, that was only a $10,000 a year job, they wouldn't have the expectations that you're not getting to do your job. And again, I think I owe it to the people that voted for me to tell them why I feel the way I do about this. I feel very strongly about it. I'm all in favor of doing some changing, but not after the election. That's just...
But Jerry, the conversation started before the election. It was
That's-
after the filing, but it started back in September.
That's the problem I have, is that the conversation
Before the election was-
started before the election, that,
An open council meeting.
and some not so open. I
don't remember that.
It was in September when we talked about it.
Well, then why didn't we change the ordinance before the
Before
election?
the election.
Why, I'm asking you.
Well, and if it started in September, correct me if I'm wrong, but the filing deadline was in August.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It
So-
was after the filing, but
It should
before
have
the
been before the
election.
filing.
Oh, okay,
So
I got
people
you.
would have had an opportunity to
Right.
run. And that's my whole issue with it as well, is it's not that, the ordinance doesn't need to be abolished. I believe it needs to be amended, but it doesn't need to be amended now. And I'm not in favor also of raising the salary to a different price after this election has happened and the people who ran for that position ran for that position. So I believe that, there could be some changes made. I don't believe that in the middle, and you see the backlash from what's happened in our state government and the raises that they were given, so the perception is from the community, from the public. And I just don't feel like that now's the time to try to come in and change something different after the fact. It needs to be from January 1st, 2019, if we're going to make a change.
But it's not necessarily making a big change. We were contracting out for the 30,000, and now we're done with that contract, so basically, we'd be paying nothing. So I see it to be fair to go to Josh for that.
And I agree, I do with what you're saying, but
I agree,
my
and that's
issue,
not the right time for me.
my issue is, what's wrong with saving $80,000 when he signed up to run for $10,000?
Where's the 80 coming from? I'm talking about the 30.
Four-year term at $20,000 savings saves you $80,000. Why can't we save the money? Because he chose to run on $10,000 a year.
We also agreed though that these duties warrant that amount of money for the prosecution.
Then they should have been changed before the election, not after. Why didn't our
No, they
council?
should have been changed before someone ran for it, which we didn't know someone was gonna run for it. So if we change all this next time and nobody runs for it, it's.
Well, I promise you, if we change it to make it, if we change it from a $10,000 a year job to over a $100,000 a year job.
That's not what we're asking. We're asking just for the prosecution duties.
In 2 years.
Here, I've looked.
While you look that up, we've got 2 residents that have taken time out of
Oh,
their schedule to be here tonight.
come on
Keep
up.
raising their hand. I'm going to give them a minute. I want to pause our discussion for a
That's
minute
fine.
and give both of them an opportunity to say something. I keep seeing y'all waving at us, so.
I don't remember the exact date that the ordinance was written, but that salary has not been upgraded since the 1980s.
I agree.
And I understand what you're saying, Jerry.
We should have done it on the front end.
He ran for $10,000, but why not be fair about this? And pay the person what the job is worth.
Do you think it's fair to change a salary after an election, after somebody gets elected?
I think it's fair to upgrade a salary to a person. So it's to a position, not a person to a position.
So if the aldermen want to raise their salary, then that would be okay.
That'll be okay for you?
They have
Well, if there
done
was
that
something
in
that
the
we
past.
weren't doing that was being contracted out, it's not like it's just money coming out of somebody's pocket. It's already being done. It's already being
Is
paid.
that, are you through? 'Cause I,
No, it's not.
No,
What I was saying is-
no, sorry, go, so,
I
go ahead.
would do it for their
Throw some
own
water.
salary, so. But, you know, to be realistic about it, the salary has not been increased for 20 years or more. And,
Or put into the Jessup schedule.
yeah.
then why didn't we change it before the election?
They didn't.
I'm
Did
just
they know
asking.
anybody's gonna run? It was something that was sitting in the backwater that nobody realized or looked at. I mean, so elected city attorney was not heard of. Nobody ever thought about running.
Right, that's why I pay $10,000 a year.
Well, I think that's part of where your amendment can
It
come
was
into
just-
place
it
on
was
that
just over.
2005 ordinance, is that the fact that it could be a gradual, the ordinance that's currently in place is from 2005. If you put in a clause that it could be, based upon a study of like elected city attorneys, or there could be some cost of living raise, whatever you want to justify it in there, that can be part of the amendment to an ordinance. When we're reworking the 2005. That's why I said the 2005 ordinance should stay, and it should just be amended if there's any changes that need.
And I want to be clear that, and then I'll let you, I am all about making changes to this outdated ordinance. But I'm not about changing it after the election. That
After
just,
the election, we got rid of our contracted attorney.
that's because we had an elected city attorney to do that job.
I'm just saying.
And that's what the law is written. The law is written that
Why
that
would
you
we
get
keep
rid of
both
your
of them?
contracted attorney if you have an
Yeah,
elected
you
attorney.
did for 4 months.
And why would
Let the
that?
contract go after the election even.
You're right.
Because the elected city attorney said he did not want to do that.
No,
Yes, he did. He told me to my face. He did
no,
not
I
want
didn't
to do
hear
that.
that.
Right, we can only go by what's on the books.
There you
Okay?
go.
Let's go forward.
Go ahead.
I'm just thinking from a historical perspective, back in the day when we had an elected city attorney and that's all we had a great one, Mr. Davis. And I can't remember why he didn't now. Mr. Chandler's probably been on here long enough. He may remember the wisdom, I think, in the forefathers before. I think city attorney is mandated by law that you can't get rid of that position. I think they set that salary low so that they could outsource it and hire somebody. And that way, Mr. Madison didn't show up at work, they can give him the boot. And I think they did that for a reason, that they got better service. They outsourced it, but you can't get rid of the position totally. So I think they set it on purpose low because they had a city attorney and they were outsourcing. That's just what I remember back from
I think the
historical
story
days.
is right.
If I may, obviously this position affects me as I'm the staff attorney, but also I represent the city and my job is to try and help you guys make decisions. I take that responsibility seriously. Mr. Steele commented about the pay. 2003-28 said the city attorney ordinance at $18,720. And that was for everything. Prosecution, city advising, whole 9 yards.
It was how much?
$18,720. And that was for everything. That was
in 2003.
That was in 2003. In 2003, by ordinance number 36, which was 2003-28 was passed August 25th, 2003. In November of 2003, City Council amended it by ordinance 2003-36, where the salary was $18,720 for city attorney duties, and they added $10,000 for prosecutorial duties. So at that point, they were thinking we have two responsibilities. Everything else, prosecute cases. And they divided that up, and they paid $10,000. Mr. Davis resigned at the end of 2004, if I remember correctly, and we had an appointed attorney to finish out the term. It was a lady by the name of Leah, I believe. In 2005, the end of 2005, they passed ordinance 2005-33, which is the ordinance that's been in place now. And it separated out the everything else and the elected attorney position. Because the elected attorney position under the ordinance that Mr. Farmer has read to you guys, and I think we all say it's pretty clear, relates to prosecuting city code violations, both criminal and civil, and city misdemeanor cases. They set the salary $10,000 to $10,200. They actually raised it from $10,000. Okay? So that's a little bit of the history. Now, Mr. Farmer also commented about the criminal defense stuff. He's absolutely correct that if you are a prosecutor and you represent the state in criminal cases, you cannot take criminal defense cases. That's clearly stated in Attorney General's opinions. It's something you should know as an attorney. Now, Mr. Farmer, came in here, the job says $10,000 a year. We work contracting with Curtis to do that. Part of that responsibility was that we didn't provide him a city phone. We didn't provide him his internet. We didn't provide his licensing fees. We didn't provide his training stuff. Mr. Farmer, as a city elected official, through my budget, gets to attend CLEs on the city. He gets a city phone. He gets city email. He has these things that Mr. Curtis, Mr. Rickard did not have. So those are some things to consider. Now, I've thought long and hard about this. I've studied this in depth. Now, a city attorney shall be elected for a city first class. If there's not one, city council may appoint somebody. They may hire an attorney that lives outside the city. But when you use the term may, it means they may do something else.
What about the word until? Isn't there word until?
It does say until, and if you will read the statute, it talks about may hire an attorney or law firm to do city legal work, advise, or prosecute. So it may do any one of those three things or none of those three things. Now, the city has historically divided the city attorney responsibilities from prosecuting city cases to everything else. My job description, which was passed in 2010 for the staff attorney, is everything else. It is, I defend the city, I represent the city, I come to city staff meetings, I'm a department head. That's my job title. So if y'all got sued, it's my job to defend you under that job description.
Let me ask you this question also. If we got sued, would the city's attorney, the city attorney's name be on that suit as well?
Depends on if he's being sued or not.
If the city's being sued.
Would he, the question is, would he have to be an attorney of record? Is that your question?
I'm asking basically if he would be liable.
You're saying, okay, the city gets sued. Is Josh's name on that lawsuit?
He would not have him under the delegation of duties that are currently in place. He would not have to enter appearance on that case. I do. Every case that is involved in the city.
Now, what do you mean an appearance? I'm asking, is his name going to be on the legal documents being sued?
Well, they can list anybody they want in the lawsuit.
You have parties and you have counsel. If he's listed as a party, i.e. I sue the city of Bryant, Lauren Gladden, Josh Farmer, then he would be a defendant. And I would advise him not to represent himself because nobody should represent themselves. The question is, would he be an attorney of record, which means representing the defendants? Under the current delegation of duties, no, he would not.
Would he be liable in any way?
No.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. This is actually the most interesting part of this. I mean, I'm a little bit of a law geek, and I was studying this, and for cities of the first class, there's two statutory responsibilities. One is to have one. If you don't, you may do this, you may do that, okay? The second statutory duty is to prosecute cases. And the only reason that duty exists is if the county prosecutor says, I'm not going to do it. So the county prosecutor has the right to say, I'm not going to do it, and it falls to the elected city attorney.
And if I recall correctly, that's what happened when we contracted with Judge Rickard.
That's correct.
That's correct.
We used to have the county
do it.
and then
2010, was it?
What happened was because of Judge Cassidy's election and the apparent conflict between Judge Cassidy and Ken Cassidy, the prosecutor, we had to contract that position out. Okay? Now, you look at a city of the second class or townships, there's a statute that says city attorney shall do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. It lays out statutorily what an elected city attorney will do for the city. Cities of the first class do not have that. Statutory interpretation tells you if the legislature is specific on one thing and not on another, then they're treating them differently. And that makes sense when you look at the terms may and puts in those clauses of or. Basically, the legislature has said, cities of first class, you're big boys. You can hire whomever you want to handle your legal business. And in fact, we do that. We hire the Friday Eldridge & Clark firm to do our bond work. You don't want me doing bond work. I won't do it. I'm not licensed. I'm licensed.
Does it state in there until there's an elected attorney?
In the ordinance.
In the ordinance or in the statute?
In the ordinance.
The ordinance doesn't say anything about that.
It doesn't say anything about it until.
In the statute. Now, the statute, let me pull it out. Because this has been an area of confusion that I've heard you all talking about. And Mr. Farmer may take a different opinion from me, but I think this is pretty clear. Incumbent city attorneys shall continue in office until their successors are elected or qualified. No attorney residing in the city is elected as city attorney. If not, the city council may select a resident attorney to fill office the remainder of the unfilled term. So, when Mr. Davis resigned, they appointed Leah somebody else. She fulfilled that term, okay? Then council divvied up the responsibilities. They took everything else, put over here, and they put the elected over prosecution. There was not a prosecution firm, so they hired Cross Gunner and Witherspoon to do that. They billed the city a whole bunch. That got canceled. We entered into a contract with the county attorney's office, county prosecuting attorney's office, to prosecute city cases, keep that separate. So that fits within the statute. Now, your specific question. It says, let's see.
Which statute are you reading from?
1443 through 15. It says, licensed attorney of this state or attorney's firm to serve as legal advisor, counselor, or prosecutor until a qualified city attorney is elected and qualified. So it does say that. But you keep mingling the staff attorney position with his election. They're separate. His election was for prosecution of city cases because that's what it divvied it out, or prosecute. So
What about managing the staff? Does that go to the city attorney or the staff attorney?
That goes to staff attorney,
Okay.
because that's under my job description.
Current ordinance, though, it spells out the job responsibilities of the elected attorney.
That's correct.
Until we change that, it is what it is.
Well, I guess I'd like to just clarify the question here. My only thing I'm asking here is that since he's doing the misdemeanors, we pay him what we were contracting.
Right.
That's it. That's the only question I'm asking here.
Yeah, I do that.
Well, that's ultimately a political question of whether or not Mr. Farmer should be held accountable to the job he ran for and should get a pay raise, or should he get paid the contract? And I realize Mr. Farmer does have some benefits that Mr. Ricker did not. And that's what I was discussing a while ago. Use of city phone, city email. He has the legal
Did he have
department.
to come to city council meetings though?
He does not.
So he's doing a little bit extra duties by coming to city council meetings.
Part of that,
Maybe that's where his phone and different things like that could come from.
his showing up to city council meetings is a matter of him deciding to be here or not. My job description specifically says I'll be at city council meetings. My job description says I will represent the city and each of you. And I
So
will do
we're
that.
trying to do what's fair or slap him on the wrist?
I'm trying to explain to you what your options are. Okay?
Fair coordinated.
Okay, I like option C.
Thank you.
All right, can we just agree that maybe option C would be the best one?
Are you wanting to include city council responsibilities?
Option C reads, as I see it, prosecutes misdemeanors and appeals, attends city council meetings, and serves as an additional advisor to the city council. And I think that's pretty much what we agreed to when we wanted to terminate the contract with Judge Ricker.
And then increase the pay to $30,000.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't have it in my. Right, no. So, I think that's fair.
And I'm
We said 2 weeks ago.
Right, we agreed to that 2 weeks ago on a full council meeting.
That we agreed to pay 30,000? Or that we
Let
agreed to?
Rickard go.
Yeah, let
Yeah,
Rickard
we
go.
let him go so Josh could start his duties.
Right.
You know, I'm all about taking the additional money and paying Josh. I don't have an issue with that come next election. That is my whole hang-up is changing a job and changing the salary after the people voted on it. Why didn't we do this before? Why didn't?
Let me ask you this. When y'all were comparing this to what the state was doing, when does the governor take his new pay raise? Next election, 4 years from now?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know about what the governor does.
And the legislature and all that, that was done this legislative session, it takes effect next fiscal year.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. They do things as they are elected to do them, to make things more comparable. They didn't do them to where the next election, 4 years from now, we want it to be this salary. They did it now.
Okay.
Well, I was the one that brought that up. My point in saying that was the fact that you seen the backlash from that. You seen how the people were not happy about that, and that was my whole point in saying. I wasn't saying that, it wasn't going to go into effect for 4 years. My point was saying that they were elected and then the raise was given. And I'll say,
And I guarantee you, some of them will pay for it next.
and I guarantee you they will. And I think if something's happened here, it will as well. And that's why I'm going to tell you now, as a council person, if we try to give ourselves a raise before the next election, I'm going to be against that. I don't believe that we got elected for a position to give a raise. And that's why I'm not going to be for a $30,000 salary to prosecute misdemeanor cases.
It can be worded in a different way then, so it's not salary, maybe he's taking over the contract.
We're kind of down to
See
C,
what Judge Rickard was going to do.
do C and $30,000.
Yes.
What?
You said do C and $30,000?
That's what, I mean, that's what I'm.
That's, okay.
I mean,
So it is
Well,
okay
we're
to
down that,
change the
to put
pay
it in
and job and
ordinance
everything
below
after
at
the
the next
election.
council meeting. And
That's what the legislature just did.
I understand, if the legislature did that, why do we have to do that in Bryant?
We're not pulling money out of just thin air. It was
I
already
understand, but we
allocated.
have a gentleman here that ran for a $10,000 a year job, and now, worst case, is change it to 30.
We asked him to do these duties.
We asked him to do the ones that were in the ordinance.
Whenever that contract was made with the judge, okay, there was no city attorney. Somebody had to prosecute the cases. Okay, because the current county prosecuting attorney couldn't do it because of the conflict of interest, because he's sort of married to our judge. So we had to use someone. So we used Judge Rickard, who had been a municipal judge for years and years and years, obviously did the system really well. Josh runs for office, oversight on perhaps staff and council for not catching that before we entered the contract with Judge Rickard. So is it right to keep paying Judge Rickard to do that, or do we have the city attorney do it? And Alderman Steele, but like Danny was saying, it hasn't been updated in a long time to do that. So,
But I think that the law was the law was pretty clear to me that it said, if we have an elected city attorney, then he needs to prosecute the cases, not the contract attorney. And the other part of that on the Judge Rickard and his pay was, how was that $30,000 derived? Because part of me wants to think Judge Rickard was a judge before he had been in law practice. I'd say probably at least 30, he's not 40 years.
50 years.
50 years. So I would say that, part of that $30,000 there, and again, going back to him being a contract, when I have a contract employee versus, when I have a contractor working for me versus an employee, the employee has the benefits versus the contractor doesn't. So I think, with Judge Rickard not having any of those benefits, then he obviously had $30,000 and the experience of 50 years or however long it's been, I don't know, arbitrarily.
I'll speak up here because I see where you're going with that. We were actually getting Judge Rickard at Steele at 30 grand. If we prosecute with the county like we were before, they charge 37,000 to send someone over. Judge Rickard was truly doing that as a service to the city. I don't think that's a good standard to go by if you're looking for what's comparable in the marketplace.
And I agree with that. I agree $10,000 is really low. I'm not trying to argue the point that $10,000 is low. What I'm trying to say is that we need to figure out a way how to increase the pay without it affecting someone who is in that current position
this year, and I'm not saying that we can't spend $30,000, but I think there needs to be some thought into how do we arrive at that number, because I don't want to arbitrarily say, well, we were paying that person $30,000, so we should just pay this person $30,000. I don't think that's a fair way to look at the.
City Attorney, what do you think?
Sincerely, I think 30 is actually pretty low for prosecutors.
Chris, you said we had some other attorneys hired and we fired them because the price was so outrageous. Do you remember how much it was?
I don't remember what the,
Just ballpark.
seems like over the 18 months, Cross Gunner and Witherspoon, they sent different attorneys out here each time, and they were billing by the hour.
So we're way over 30,000 bucks.
Yeah, it was well over 30,000. I don't remember specifically, but it was well over 30,000. And the county, I think, was at 30 or 37. I was thinking they were at 30 also.
They were 37.
I think it's 37, I'm with you. So I think the council members are pretty set in who's for it and who's against it. And we just ought to let it proceed on, and if we have an ordinance come up at the next meeting, we vote on it and move on.
But does the county pay any of this money back to
No.
us? So because the judge and the prosecutor are married, it costs us money, basically?
What was it?
No,
But I mean, I thought we got some money back.
We paid the prosecuting attorney's office $30,000 until Judge Cassidy was elected, and since then, we have paid Judge Rivers $30,000.
Okay.
It's cost us the same.
Okay, it's the same.
What we get reimbursement for is court expenses, because this is a district court that also handles other courts in the city. So the county pays us for the judge. We get half of the judge pay, not on the
Oh,
prosecutor.
just half of the judge's pay.
And Josh, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
When you ran, again, we'll beat the dead horse, but you knew the pay was $10,000 a year. Why did you run?
Well, I thought 10,000 at that time was pretty reasonable, considering we had a staff attorney and someone on contract doing the prosecutions. You know, and I kind of felt like, as an elected official, I was coming in sort of as a supplement to those at the outset. So I said, yeah, it was 10,000, but you know, when I looked at the overall scheme, doing the grunt work, you know, work with them, help them with issues, manage them, come to city council meetings, that's not that bad.
Well, you know, I believe also with us sitting up here, sometimes you have to compromise. It can't always be black and white. I would be willing to entertain option C if that would make everybody happy and put everybody on the same page. And I want to say that's not what I want to do. But I think everyone in here knows how I feel about this. I think we need to change it all. And the city attorney job ought to be $100,000-something a year job. But it's not. And the time for us to make it that, in my opinion, is before the next election, where we can advertise, or people that are running for that job know what they're running for. They know they're going to have to change anything if they get elected. And I would be willing to take $20,000 of Judge Rickard's money against my, I'm doing it to compromise and to try to move this issue forward and get us working on city business.
Well, like Alderman Greenblatt said, it's going to come down to us negotiating the full council meeting, because we could take no action tonight whatsoever.
Right.
So we could keep doing this all night, but it's not going to get good. But I'm sorry, the Broadway party room lady wants to talk. Spirit.
I'm going to just speak for myself.
Well, she can be loud,
I'm kind of loud, and thanks. I understand what everybody is saying, and I hear everything, and I'm not going to go back in time, but I want to make 2 points, please. I think that, and this is not directed at any one individual, and I know it's not directed to you, but I think there was a huge disservice done before this last election cycle, that this wasn't addressed and amended along the way. So we're not even having to have this conversation. And once upon a time, the city attorney, I think it was, that's what Lisa and I were trying to figure out. There were 2 city attorneys and they made like $125,000. So we're saving a lot of money right now. But I think that what I apologize, what Josh should be given the responsibility to do is to act in his elected capacity, because I thought I was electing a full-on city attorney.
No, but the ordinance.
I understand that, Jerry.
I
but
can't
you're-
help it that if you didn't understand it.
No, I understood it. I got it. I'm fine with it, but I want the city attorney position. My problem is the ordinance should have been fixed before the election happened.
Okay.
It would make all of this conversation.
I agree.
Conversation moot.
But it wasn't.
But it wasn't. That's right.
And I'm in favor of changing it 4 years from now.
We don't need to wait for 4 years.
So compromise is something that we all need to think about and entertain, that everybody sees 2 sides to a story, and that we want to work in harmony and we want to work together. And I would like for you all to consider doing that.
I'll
So
do that.
the C, but I think it should be $10,000 plus the contract money.
Yeah, I do want to throw one more thing in, this is why I added some parentheticals about adding clarifying language that these are the only duties.
I agree.
Because it puts the elected city attorney in a bit of a hard place when I've got voters who voted for me who are expecting certain things, and if that's not my responsibility, that's fine, but I have to be able to go back and say, well, this was before the council, they voted on it, they spoke, here's what it looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you're counting to your voters.
Right.
Right.
But the voters are accountable, I mean, it's not our responsibility to educate the world.
Okay.
People have to read what the order says.
Alderman Glavine, are you satisfied with this?
Yes, yeah.
Can we be excused? We don't want to talk some more. I mean, I love talking to you.
When is this one, I don't know, in April or in May? April?
In April, 2000.
April.